hours of WFN in New York and simulcast across the country via the Yes Network. This is Mike Zon, Francesor on the Fan on this first day of summer, the 21st day of the month of June, the summer solstice, as we get into the longest day of the year. So welcome, everybody, as we begin summer. We are finally there. It wasn't a beautiful spring, that's for sure, so we hope it is a lot nicer summer. We expect it will be. Sure, it has been the last couple of days as we head towards July, which is right around the corner. So we got a busy show for you today. We'll have Cashman. We'll have Brian Cashman on because I think the Yankees have reached the point where you need to talk to general manager, which we will, about where we are headed here with this team, especially amidst talk of A-Rod making, as I told you a couple of days ago, and there's been more reports. A-Rod's making quick work of this. He's coming. He's getting better quickly. He could be ready by the middle of July. So that's a step in the right direction. We will also have Steve Schirripa. He'll join us later. I actually think he's going to come in. He's in New York. He's going to come in and talk a little. He's going to be here at 2 o'clock, as a matter of fact, to do Gandolfini. We wanted to get him, so he is in town, so he's nice enough to come by, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So he will join us. We will have the Yankee manager at 5 this afternoon, so we will do that. We'll touch on the Mets and put Eddie up there to say hello as the Mets visit old friends. Doesn't seem like the Mets have played the Phillies. Have they played the Phillies at all this year yet? I don't remember seeing the Phillies. Have they seen the Phillies? They probably have. You know what? Doesn't seem like they've seen the Phillies in a long time for some reason. But they will see the Phillies and Cole Hamels, who is having a strange season. He really has got 10 losses. But we should begin with the end of the basketball season. And let me say this. That was a great final, okay? That final did the NBA proud. Mike Breen and Jeff Van Gundy did a great job. I found that final enormously entertaining. The drama of it, really from the late days of the Bulls series through the Indiana series, right through this series, it has really been a heck of a ride. It's been a lot of fun. I think it was dramatic. It was good basketball. And I want to start off by paying homage to the San Antonio Spurs, who I think had a sensational season, and I think really elevated their status in defeat. This is the first time this group has lost the final. We know that. But you know what? Many times they hadn't had to play great in the final to win. And they really distinguished themselves in this final. I thought Tim Duncan was better in defeat, really elevated himself in defeat. I know he missed the shot that left him heartsick, that he missed it over Battier that would have tied the game. But I thought he did a great job in this series and showed more life than I thought he had left in his body. The greatest power forward who's ever lived, and I think one of the great players of all time. Ginobili last night even distinguished himself with some clutch play. I think Leonard has stamped himself as a big star in the making, a guy who really has got a chance to be a really special player in the NBA, so good for him. He's a good kid. He's a hard-working kid. He plays defense. He rebounds. He does everything right. His offense will get better. I think he's just a wonderful kid. And you could see the admiration at the end of this series that these two teams had for each other. Not a technical foul, not a cross word. The Heat even said, you know what? They said teams in this league all talk trash. He said the Spurs, some of them have never spoken to us. Says Tim Duncan. He said, Leonard, they don't say a word the entire series. They just play as hard as they can. And you know what? It was a wonderful, wonderful series. Now, last night's game wasn't a classic in the first half. I really think the teams were tired after the amazing Game 6. But you got a great flurry in that fourth quarter, back and forth. I mean, some really good basketball. And it was a heck of a Game 7, much better than you can ever expect to get. And a really tremendous performance from every standpoint. I know Parker had a tough time. You know what? He really did. He had a tough time in Game 6 and 7. He really got clamped down. But you know what happens? It happens. You know what? Parker will be back someday. I don't know if the Spurs ever will. But you know what? I didn't expect to see them back in a final again. I thought it was wonderful to see the respect that LeBron James and Wade had for Duncan. And I love the way Manu Ginobili stood up and answered all those questions yesterday after the game. The only one who even showed any angle was Tony Parker. I thought it was just a great series. I think it distinguished the NBA. I thought it was really just a wonderful thing. I mean, I had people who I don't remember ever talking to me about the finals, talking to me about this final. I think this was a very, very good thing for the NBA. I really do. And I think it was a wonderful series, and my hat's off to San Antonio, which I thought really in defeat distinguished themselves in a very big way. As far as the Heat, and listen, everyone can wait over the offseason to see, what the future is for the players on this team other than the big two. And Wade obviously, needs the heal. He obviously wasn't 100%. I know Bosh didn't score in Game 7. He had a tough role in the series, but he did have a tough time. I would be surprised if he's not on the team next year. But again, we could talk about that in the summertime or in the later on. That's not for today. And we spent a lot of time, and it's frankly amazed me the silly talk about LeBron James. And I know people don't want to warm to him. Maybe because he went to Miami or whatever the reason is. I don't know. Whatever the reason is, and that's fine. But the silliness, it's just got to stop. I mean, if he hasn't shown you yet what he is, then I just don't think you get it. I mean, last night was a very different game from him. It's another different showcase for him, a very different game for him. He took more shots from the perimeter last night, which shocked the heck out of me. Took more shots last night from the perimeter last night than any game he ever played in the NBA. I don't know why he chose Game 7 to do that, but you know what? It wound up working out for him last night. But the thing that you stamp about him more than anything else was what he did to Tony Parker in Game 6 and 7. They were scared to death about playing against Tony Parker's penetration and his ability to score. Tony Parker could not score in the last two games of that series against LeBron James at all. He could not score. And you heard Spoelstra say after the game last night, well, if anybody got hot, I just switched LeBron James onto him. He said, we said, LeBron, go guard Leonard for a minute. He's getting hot. Go guard this guy. He's getting hot. Well, whenever a guy got hot, we put LeBron James on him. So, that just shows you what this guy's overall ability is. And, I don't know what the silliness is about, but you've watched a guy now who, at 28, just take the time, if you like basketball, to appreciate what you're watching. I mean, you are not going to see a guy like this very often. I don't know when you'll see one come down the pike again, but this is a very special talent and a very unusual one in his versatility. And right now, Bill Russell would have done this. He didn't, because they did not name a Finals MVP. They didn't start giving out Finals MVPs until 1969. That was the end of Russell's career. The only two players in the history of the NBA who have won back-to-back titles and in those seasons won the regular season MVP and the Finals MVP in the history of the NBA are Michael Jordan and LeBron James. That's it. No one else has ever done it in the history of the league. He has done that at the age of 28. No one else has ever done it. Michael only did it once, and Michael never did 3 years in a row. So if LeBron should come back next year and do it, he'd be the first player ever to do it. Bill Russell could have done it. Now, late in the 60s, he probably wouldn't have been the MVP of his team anyway. John Havlicek probably would have been. It was a little different team by then. And last night in a Game 7 of the NBA Finals, LeBron he tied the mark for the most points ever scored in a Game 7. 37, which was scored, believe it or not, by Tommy Heinsohn. That's the most points ever scored in a Game 7 of an NBA Finals. Not a Game 7 of any series, a Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And in the last 5 elimination games that he played, he averaged 34 points a game and shut down the other team's best player. That's remarkable stuff. So, I'm tired of talking about that. I really am. I think it's silly. I think a lot of the calls have been silly. But I just would rather see people start to appreciate at 28 as he moves into a different part of his career now. Because, let's be honest, only a fool is going to question this guy's career after this. Okay? He has completely dominated the sport now on a level that few ever have the last couple of years. So only someone who just has either an axe to grind or just doesn't get it, is going to question him ever again. So now it should get to a point where you just grow to an appreciation of what he might be able to do in the next 5 or 6 years in this game. And you know what? Life's strange. You don't know if he'll do it or not. I mean, who knows? I mean, he might get hurt. I mean, it doesn't look like he's going to, but I mean, you never know. But there's a very good chance he could grow to put up stuff that, and do things that have never been done before. We'll see. But it's a remarkable last couple of years with as much pressure as I've seen on any player at any time. I can't remember. There's that kind of pressure on Tiger Woods. There has been a lot of pressure at times on Peyton Manning. There is as much pressure on this player as anybody I've seen. And the last 2 years, people were just waiting to kick dirt on him. And it's not going to happen now. There's no way to ever kick dirt on him now after what he's done now, because what he's done now makes him special because it's only been done by one other guy. And if he has to answer about being clutch again, I mean, then you're just trying to hold somebody to something that doesn't make any sense. So we will say goodbye to the NBA for a while until at least we get some, off-season moves and the draft, which to me has very few players in it. I mean, there are not a lot of players in this draft. I'll be interested to see if Doc Rivers goes to the Clippers. Sounds like they may have to do that trade in 2 parts. We'll see how that works out. But we'll come back and talk about the finals with you. Remember, we have a very busy show. Girardi, Cashman, Sharippa, even a couple other things as we go towards this evening on a Friday, the first day of summer, right after this.